I'm Dave Crane. In a perfect world, life would be the same. We'd be living the new normal, and we'd just resume the game. But it isn't perfect, it's what it is. That doesn't mean that you have to be. We've lost friends, we've lost money, might have even lost family. Now we have better opportunities than ever before. Reinvent yourself, grow your personal brand, connect to many, many more. Go from 1 million to 1 billion. Find your voice, become an industry icon, and make success your choice. Hi, and welcome to Speak on Stage. I'm Dave Crane, and as you can see, my luxurious and festive surroundings, it's coming to the end of the year. And I know that talking to lots of friends around the world, because I'm based in Dubai, as you can clearly see, it's snowing, not just snowing, but it's like living in a freezer, because it's so cold. And we're showing pictures of how cold it truly is, and it just looks bonkers. But anyway, it's good to have you hear me. Hear me? Good to have you hear me and here with me on the New Year's Resolution show. This show is specific. This show is really all about the ability to make decisions at this time of year and have them come true. And most people don't make decisions, and most people just think about it and go, well, in a perfect world it would be true, but I don't really know how to do it. So today's show is dedicated to sharing with you a ton of different ideas. Now, I know it's been the worst year possible. We will be discovering exactly how you can create an antidote to that. And I know that for many of us, we're just kind of scarred from the whole experience of not knowing what was coming and dealing with it. I've got to be honest, for the Christmas period, I took a break. I did a show with my daughter. You probably saw it, where we did the top 10 Christmas songs of all time. And then I decided I'll take a break. I'll just get myself a little drink and chill out. And my whole body and my brain and my soul and bleh, like that. Not quite looking up my nose like you did then. But it just basically said, I'm not playing anymore. I'm going to take a break, whether you like it or not. In the next couple of days, Dave, even if you want to just chill out, you can do that and only that. Don't even look at work. Don't go near your laptop. Don't even post anything. Don't say anything. Don't comment. Don't share. Don't like. And don't move. So that's pretty much what I did. I devoted the Christmas time to chilling out with my beautiful family, my gorgeous wife Aziza, my daughter Maya, and we just spent quality time. I was walking my dogs twice a day, which is beautiful, in the morning and the evening, without worrying about all the stress of, oh no, if I leave, I've got a meeting coming up. I had about 2 or 3 meetings, I've got to admit, because they're pre-booked, but there's something special about doing a Christmas time meeting, is that nobody actually wants to be there. So you have your meeting and you get out of there, and as soon as you're finished, you go back to a normal life of just being who you are, where you are, and discussing all the good things with your family. Even the post-mortems I've normally had my gorgeous wife Aziza, we didn't really have them so much. We just went, right, okay, that's done, that's out of the way, let's leave it until the new year. So today's show is literally all about the ability to get rid of all the horrible things that happened in 2020. Now, I will say as a caveat for anybody who's wondering, is 2021 going to be very different? I hate to say it, but no, it's not going to be that different. And you're saying, Dave, how can you say that? We look to you to make us feel happy, make us dance, make us happy. No. I'll tell you what's going to be like. You know when you watched the Harry Potter series, and there's like 7 books, so there should be like 7 movies. And they shot in another one. They just put in an extra one for no reason. And you're going, they're just doing that to flesh out the movies and make another load of money because they know we have to go. And that extra one they created, and they did the same with the Hunger Games. They created an extra show that wasn't in the trilogy, and you watched it and you went, why am I watching this? It's not even very interesting. All they're doing is making people talk about things that don't really have that much relevance just to get more money from us. Well, 2021, in my opinion, is going to be like an extension of the back end. I'm not going to say that, the ass. I just did. The back end of 2020. You know this bit now, when everything's kind of just flattening out, and it's not great at all. It's just, okay, we're kind of getting used to it, and people are starting to talk to me again, and I've socialized a little bit, but we do keep our distance, we do wear masks, and every time we go to a shopping mall, it's almost like you're playing TIG. They go, or tag, you know, you're it, you can't get me, because you don't get close enough to anybody to do that. That is going to be the norm for quite some time. And so, despite the fact we've got New Year, it's not going to be like you suddenly wake up and they say, oh, it was all a dream. Just like Dallas with Patrick Duffy and JR many, many years ago. And if you've got no idea what I'm talking about, Google Bobby in the shower. Well, you might get something completely different if you Google Bobby in the shower. But Dallas, Bobby in the shower. Actually, it might be a guy called Bobby from Dallas, and there's pictures of him in the shower. Forget I said anything. It's not a good plan. Just trust me, there was a dream sequence to explain some stuff that people could explain. That's how they... Moving on. So this year coming is going to be exactly the same as last year, apart from a couple of key things, and these are really important things. First of all, we know what a pandemic feels like and looks like. We know that if we don't pay attention to it, we will die, or get very sick, or it might go straight past us to somebody we love, and we might be immune, or at least immune from the symptoms, but we can be a carrier. We know that if you do social distancing and wear a mask, then things will be okay, or at least a lot better. We also know that if you're a frontline worker and you're working in the medical industry, or you're working in something relating to that kind of industry, then you're the ones that kept us alive, as well as logistics people and people like Amazon who got all our stuff delivered without us having to worry about anything at all. They kept us alive. The normal services still did their job, but without the medical guys jumping in, we would have been really up the doodah creek. So I've got to say that because I do think it's very true. I also think that people are not talking about, working from home. Things aren't about working from home anymore. It's just called remote working. It's actually just going to be called working. You don't go to work, you just work. And you work from home, or you might work in the office, but it's just part of working. Because this is one of the things that's going to change, and people will be able to justify it and talk about it with great experience about it. We're not going to be talking now about the new normal. It's just been normal. We're not going to be talking about, virtual education or online education. It'll just be called education. Same as work. Same as, everything you think of, we just kind of put a title in front to make it sound exciting and fresh and new. It will just become that hybrid. Which is good, because once that's accepted by everybody, we move on. The odds are that you will be working from home for quite some period of time, if not forever, and you're saying, no, but Dave, I miss the office. Well, yeah, you do miss the office, but here, think about the business model. The business model of all the guys that create the systems that like to be remote. So whether it's Slack, or Google, or Meets, or Teams, or Zoom, all these guys want you to be at home, because you've got to pay a subscription fee to use their technology, whether it's monthly, weekly, daily, annually, to be able to reach your team. It means that you get safer, it means that you've got to pay out more, and as an organization, you're paying out for every single license that you create. But it also means, on the good side, that you don't have to be in danger. You can spend more time with your family or your friends or yourself if you prefer that. And it also means that when you consider how this all comes together, you could be working with anybody around the world at all. You don't necessarily have to be somewhere where you've got to move house and go into an office and sit in traffic and all the rest of it. It does have a knock-on effect on every single industry, though. So just be prepared to see some industries buckle and disappear, but out of every single industry, it buckles and disappears, a new one comes out of it, or at least that's a norm. That's been a bit slow, but it doesn't mean it won't happen. It's just got a lot of catching up to do because we didn't expect this kind of change to happen outside of 10 years of constant planning and constant tweaking, constant readjusting. But those that are able to make a change will find that they're in a much better position than anybody else. Big deep breath. So as I was saying, how are you? Are you good? Did you have a good Christmas? Did you have a good end of year? Have good celebrations for New Year as well? Got it all planned, or are you staying at home like every sensible person should be? Based in Dubai, there are a number of different options as well. Dubai's been brilliant at being able to lock things down straight away, but open up things in a safe way. I've got to say that I did one of the first gigs of the first big conferences anywhere in the world, GITEX, where they had social distancing, they had a hybrid on-screen and off-screen, masks everywhere, but it was still a really exciting, full-on event. Not quite what it's been in previous years, but the message was sent that it's still an event world and you can still do them. You just have to take a little bit more care in how you put it all together. And I think in most industries that has been the case, or it will be the case. In many it's going to change. Real estate, for instance, which has always been based on the closer you are to the proximity to the office and the action, the more expensive your apartment is going to be. Now that's changed quite considerably. Now it's the more distance you are, and the more luxurious your place with more space around, which used to be the cheaper places to be in the suburbs, that's become a more expensive place to be in. So it will balance up, but it makes for a very interesting time, especially if you're jumping into that gap and making it so you can actually deliver to people who need something more from that. Now, many years ago, New Year's used to be my DJing days. So grey hair and everything shouldn't scare you too much. It's not going away, that's just it. But what used to happen was I would DJ an end-of-year party somewhere. On occasion, it would be a corporate event, but it's been based in Dubai for like 20 years. Guaranteed every New Year. Somebody say, Dave, can you DJ at our big event? It's a big, whether it's your Mirror Beach Hotel or it's just one of these big places where I'd have like thousands of people, sometimes paying $1,000 a seat. Not to see me, to eat and drink heavily. Not to see me, I was just pressing buttons and trying to look pretty. But this year will be different. There'll be things going on all around the world, especially online, which should be interesting for many of you. And I hope for you, if you're enjoying this show, then you've joined me for this part. This is partly the end of the year show as well, as much as everything. And I will be looking for a New Year's resolution. So put your New Year's resolution in the comments. I'd love to think of what it is you're doing, and maybe we can comment and work on something as well. This year, let's start off by talking about the big challenges. The things that have been horrible, the things that we had to deal with, and let's get that out of the way. So what I suggest, it's going to be a long show. We're going to go through New Year's resolutions. We're going to talk about the ways that the year's been tough, but it can be better, and there are lots of silver linings. I'll be teaching you how to make vision boards and sharing my vision board with you. And also, we'll be looking at how to make your New Year's resolutions stick. So even though the next year will look exactly the same as this year, but a tiny, tinty little bit better, your ecosystem will be different all the way through. Same as when I went into lockdown, I suddenly learned, right, I'm going to teach myself how to broadcast, how to speak online, because previously I hadn't had to worry about it, but now it's the only way to reach people. You will have to reinvent yourself in some way, shape or form, but the idea is not to do it all at once and put it in a new year and go, oh my goodness. The idea instead is to say, right, I'm going to reinvent myself when I need to do it, and start it now, but keep it going on an ongoing basis. So there's less chance of you failing, and as long as you take baby steps, you just reinvent in baby steps, get it wrong, get it right, then you've got that connectivity that means it should work. So with that, we're going to take a look into what's happened in 2020. It's a brilliant video. You are going to love it, even though it is a bit challenging. It's so well put together, I had to share it with you. We've got it on the Toilet Paper Diaries End of Year Awards with Golden Thrones of my friend Ernesto Verdugo, by the way. Check that out. The biggest and the best and the villains, the heroes of 2020. And that's a separate show which I'll be playing for you very soon. But meanwhile, let's have a coffee. That's so good. And share with you the good, the bad, and the ugly of 2020. It's Speak on Stage. Wow, still hits me, that video. So where are we? 2020 into 2021. A brutal year. Getting through it alive is a major thing. And we all know people who didn't. Worldwide, a full stop or a pause button would be nicer than anything. But I want you to have more than that. This year, I want you, in the coming year, to start making money again. I want you to start finding the success that you deserve and start thinking about what happens next. I've already explained the fact that it's not about the new normal, it's just normal. And also the excuses that we use, which are real excuses. about how tough the world is and how difficult it's been, people will forget about that and they will move on. Doesn't mean that you should forget about how you deal with it, because they will be a major part of our lives. I do believe that the mental health, the emotional challenges are not going to go away as fast as the economic changes. Many people lost their jobs, many people lost their industries, many people have challenges of how to feed their kids, how to feed themselves, and whether to make a decision. Am I going to feed my kids at lunchtime or feed my kids at evening? The world wasn't ready for that. Most of us are horrified by that. But this is a real world. It will get better. Now, here's where I see this going. I believe, and I love your thoughts and your comments, by the way. Send me on New Year's resolutions. I used to ask everybody during the days when I used to DJ on New Year's Eve, send me all New Year's resolutions. The best one gets a prize. I get a handful of things being sent in. Not many, because most people just go, well, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about it. Cheers! There we go. Not drinking water, we're drinking more at the time, but that was what we did. So, send me your comments, your thoughts, and the positive stuff about the year. It's very important. So we can then move on, because what I want to share with you now is what I believe you need to be doing. I think you need to declare yourself to be in charge of your life. I need you to declare that you will position yourself to be the very best that you can be by doing all the skills, learning all the things that you need to be pandemic proof. Now, I know that means that you're not necessarily going to get a vaccine against the challenges of the world. The vaccine, thank goodness, is here in some way, shape, or form. And don't talk about the fact that things are mutating. I want to talk about the fact that you need to mutate to be able to deal with challenges. Let me put this into some kind of perspective here. When the pandemic hit, I went straight online with my friend Ernesto Verdugo. We did a show called the Toilet Paper Diaries, which we're still doing, and you'll see our special end of year episode today. There's a link to it in this actual broadcast. So we went online and we started doing a daily show all about helping people through the pandemic. We called it the Toilet Paper Diaries for fun, because we had no idea how long is this going to last. Maybe 3 weeks. That'll be all right. 3 weeks, do a show every day. That'd be cool. 9 months later, we're still doing a show and people are still in lockdown worldwide, and some people are merging out of it, but in many cases are merging out, and it's a kind of hybrid. You can leave your house, you can go shopping, you can visit a handful of friends, but by and large, you do more at home and less interactive than ever before. So reinventing yourself is something that I'm used to doing. I'm also used to being a freelancer or being an entrepreneur, and what that means is I've always worked for myself. In times when I've worked for somebody in a job, I have found systemic racism. To be honest with you, that's why I don't want to work for an organization. I've not been for a job interview for about 30 years, because when I used to go for them, they give all sorts of crappy excuses, and I have been told you're overqualified. I've been told, oh, you've done so many things, we don't think this job will be right for you. What? You mean I've done so many things to get to a point where you have no choice but to give it to me, but you're saying that I've got too many strings to my bow? How do I deal with that? So I just stopped working for people and always work for myself. So what it means is when it comes down to a pandemic and a challenge of a time like this, I've had to realize that I've got to reinvent. Do a TV show, learn how to drive a desk and a laptop with digital stagecraft, and teach people how to find their way forward. Zoom calls are fantastic, they've changed the world. But did you know that when I do a Zoom call, it's like this? With my name logo and with a backdrop, whatever it is I want to have, and I can play videos. This show is done the same way as I do Zoom calls. So if you're interested in knowing more about that, then I can help you with it. Meanwhile, go to SpeakOnstage, it's all there. But I want to share with you a short video all about how I think you need to be thinking about yourself. This is a new age. This is 2021 and beyond. And you need to think of yourself and your position in your industry and how you can be seen as a thought leader if you want to still stay at the top of the game.
Your brand is everything. The way you walk, the way you talk, the way you look, the way you interact, and the things you've done to help others. When you get your brand right, your industry understands instantly the value that you bring to the table You're a thought leader. You're the high achiever in the room. And you are the industry icon that everyone turns to when we need to find that way forward. Because in a world where everybody's stepping up, you need to fly. Join the Industry Icon program with SpeakOnstage.
So with that, that's the Industry Icon program. Go to SpeakOnstage.com, which is my website, and you can find out more about my courses to learn to speak on stage, and also the Industry Icon program. So when you go to the website, SpeakOnstage.com, you'll see a big picture of me that looks a bit like this guy here. Possibly a little less grey than I am right now, but pandemics will do that for you. Oh yes, it will. And from there, all you need to do is go to the button above. Can you see this one over here? Industry icon. If I point to it there, that's better. Then you can see that gold button. Press on that, and it takes you to another page, which when you scroll down, it looks a little bit like this page. And when you go down, you can see this button, which is on my left here. That one's saying take the free survey. Press on that green button, and it will give you a crash course in what you need to be thinking about in order to be successful in your career and positioning on your own personal brand, but it also gives you a number of different options you can look at to work with me in the future, which is kind of cool as well. So have a look at that. And when I do work with my people with the Industry Icon program, then we specialize in a number of different things, everything from starting your own TV show, to being able to broadcast virtually, to being an incredible guest on podcasts, starting your own podcast, creating a magazine, or even just elevating your brand through speaking. Speaking at the moment is in a weird place, because your ability to communicate is everything. Your ability to grow your brand through communication is everything. It's so much more cost effective than, say, taking out adverts and so on, because you are a living, breathing marketing machine. But you're not speaking in gigs yet, but that doesn't mean that people aren't paying attention to you. The longer they are in lockdown, the more they are online, the more likely they are to be online, especially on LinkedIn and platforms like that. So the more you can reach them like that and be different from the rest of the mob, the more that you're going to actually be able to generate revenue and create that new relationship. Does that make sense to you? Does it? Are you sure? Good. Okay, with that, let's get on now to the actual New Year's resolutions part of today's show. Hope you're feeling like you got over the whole Christmas festive period, and it's not quite time to go back to work, or school, but it is time to start thinking about it. So let's get in with a deep dive, and next up we're going to look at all the good news from 2020, and it will make you feel better, I guarantee.
As 2020 comes to a close, how was your year?
The worst year ever.
2020 has been awful by so many measures.
Gentlemen,
We did have a bitter election.
the radical left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is
And the pandemic. But there is also good news.
If I were to pick a year, the best year in human history to face a pandemic, I would say it's 2020.
Johan Norberg's new book, The Story of Human Progress, points out that people just don't realize that life keeps getting better.
Which other year would you pick? Well, you could go for 2005. Well, in that case, you wouldn't have the technology to create these mRNA vaccines. Had we had this in 1990, we wouldn't have a World Wide Web, and I wouldn't be able to participate in your show. And if we had had this pandemic in 1976, we wouldn't have been able to read the genome of the virus. And if we had had this pandemic in 1950, we wouldn't have had a single ventilator.
These last 20 years, says Norberg, have been especially good.
Mankind has attained more wealth than ever.
A lot of this money went to the top 1% and ordinary people.
Feed the rich and feed the poor.
They think they're doing worse.
And if you look at specifics like global poverty, child mortality, chronic undernourishment, and illiteracy, they all declined faster than ever.
All are pretty good measures of quality of life.
Literacy might be the most important skill you can acquire because it's the skill that makes it possible to acquire other skills. And we've never seen literacy at these high levels ever before. In the most problematic countries around the world, it's better than it was in the richest countries some 50, 60 years ago. And that's most important for those who have the least.
But the media seek out bad news.
The devastation we're seeing to women in this post-pandemic economy.
We're a failed society. This thing hits us when we have low levels of social trust, when suicide was spiking.
Suicide is up.
I can definitely see the problems there, but once upon a time, if you ended up in the wrong school or in the wrong neighborhood, you had nowhere to go. There was no other community available to you. Now there is, and that opens up a world of opportunity, some awful things as well, but also some beautiful things.
That meant even during COVID, more people could find new ways to help others.
People are calling me saying, like, I want to come work, like to volunteer and donate their time, which is like, I cannot believe it.
Your granddaughter, she arranged for us to bring you a meal. Oh my God. So we brought you that.
Open up that door and I'll walk right in.
All we do is hand you the bag. Simple, done.
In 2020, businesses had more tools with which to adapt to COVID.
We pushed everything to curbside and carry out.
The owner of Maryland Crab King quickly redesigned his kitchen.
My sales actually picked up because our system actually allowed us to be able to be more efficient than we were before COVID.
Such improvements rarely make news because reporters like to find problems. Many say the environment's getting worse.
Biodiversity is reportedly declining faster than that of any time.
Even if that were true,
we have never made this much progress against pollution. The 6 leading pollutants, the ones that used to pollute our lungs and our forests and our rivers, they've declined by some 70%.
And it's too bad that our social media suggests we're on the brink of World War III.
People think there's as much or more war as ever.
But we've forgotten the wars that we had in the past.
There are not only fewer wars today than there used to be.
When I grew up in the 1980s, the battle death rates were 4 times higher.
Less war is one reason people keep living longer. After COVID, that trend will continue.
We have this tendency, for good reasons, to focus on problems because that's our way of solving problems. But then there's the risk that we'll just despair and think it's hopeless and we give up. And that's not the solution to our problems.
Just cheer up and be happy?
We should be a little bit grateful for what we have.
And I'm grateful to you for helping me make these videos. It's been tougher because of COVID, but thanks to people like you and your donations, please click that button, we've been able to keep making them.
So remember to like, share, and subscribe. It's great having you with me. I should say Happy New Year now, because if wherever you are in the world, you probably already celebrated Happy New Year, or you're waiting for it to come up, or whatever it is. So Happy New Year from me to you. Look forward to seeing you in 2021. It will look exactly like this, but I'll go back to my normal house. I won't be living in what looks like Santa's grotto, even though the grey hair is not going to go anywhere fast. So we've established the world is a better place, not least because the world was in a better place to be able to deal with the pandemic than we could have thought it could be. So everything is on an upwards curve, but we've had a little bit of a blip called 2020. Now, if you really want to address where you go with this, one of the best ways to do it is to create a vision board. I'm going to quickly show you my vision board, and I'll talk you through it. So the vision board I've got here, it's got me down there as a virtual broadcaster. It's got a little picture of my family, my daughter Maya, my wife Aziza, my 2 dogs. Snow and Ash, you can guess which one they are, dressed as superheroes, and that gives me something to focus on about the challenge we have of the pandemic and life and so on. It's also got all the different areas that I want to work on in my life. I won't spend too long dwelling on this because it's not so important. What is important is that you think about creating yours. I'll explain exactly why you need to have a vision board to move forward, but it's about goal setting. Goal setting is important, but it's not as important as having the systems that can create what you need. So writing out what you want and putting pictures up there is very good, because every day I've got it on my laptop, so I've got it everywhere. And so I can see that picture. I've got it on the wall here, massive version of it, like huge, of that as a print. And I can look at it and say, and this reminds me subconsciously what I'm working towards. But what it is really is the ability to talk to your subconscious mind, the bit below the surface, and say to that, right, I want you to start working on making these realities and getting me closer to these things while I concentrate on everything else I've got to do. So what happens is things that are on there, you start looking at it, you start going, oh, that happened. Oh, that happened. Now, my own personal vision board is something that I created last year, and I've only just updated because a ton of things I wanted to happen didn't actually happen, because I changed my focus from what would happen in a normal life, a normal year, to what would happen during a pandemic, and the vision board went to one side, even though I still kept my eyes on the prize. I just extended the length of time that I wanted it all to be a reality for me. But you've got to break down each part of it into a small mini business model, ideally about 3 months. 3 months to get from start to finish of what it is you want to do, whether it's losing weight, or whether it's making money, or it's getting a good relationship, or changing your job, or whatever it would be. 3 months with a business model and steps, not just a picture to aim at, and then you've got a better chance of translating it. Next up, what we're going to do, we'll return to my vision board, we're going to go through that in a moment, is have a look at what 100 people interviewed last year said were their New Year's resolutions. And I know I'm going to give it as a caveat the fact that this year's New Year's resolutions might be very different from what people were saying last year, but I will say that people are people, and the basics are usually the same. Take a look. This is Speak on Stage.
What's your New Year's resolution?
For 2019?
2020.
Oh yeah.
What's your New Year's resolution?
Oh God. Oh, I hate resolutions.
I haven't even thought about that yet. My New Year's resolution.
Ooh. My New Year's resolution is to drink more water.
Stop spending my money at bars. No shots of well tequila.
I just deserve more than well tequila.
What's your New Year's resolution?
I want to be better organized.
Way more organized.
Get my shit together.
I'm 5'6", and every year my New Year's resolution is to touch a 10-foot basketball rim.
I want to start waking up earlier.
Go to the gym.
Work out.
Get in better shape.
I want to lose 10 pounds.
To lose weight. I say that every year.
My New Year's resolution is to get thick with 2 C's.
New booty for me. I want a new butt.
I want to know what your New Year's resolution is.
Stop smoking nicotine. I started off juuling, and then I tried quitting the juul by smoking cigs.
I want to travel more.
Like to go to Italy.
Greece,
Russia, Philippines,
Micronesia.
I want to go to the Nordic region.
I want to be more of a homebody.
I think I just want to discover like my passion.
I want to take a dance class.
I would like to learn like salsa. This is what I can do. It's horrible.
Learn the piano.
Rock climbing.
Ski. I've never skied before. I'm from an island. I'm very scared of it.
In 2020, I want to get published.
Submit a short film to a film festival.
I'm gonna release my first album on Spotify.
Releasing an album.
To drop an album. Finish an album.
Make a living doing music.
To perform to a sold-out crowd of 5,000 people or more.
What's your New Year's resolution?
I don't really ever do New Year's resolutions.
Because like I'm in shape, people are like, I want to read 2 books, and I'm like, I read books all the time.
Tell me all the things that you don't need to improve.
No. I'm not like that.
And I don't believe in New Year's resolutions.
It's cliched.
I don't want to make promises I can't keep.
Every day is a good day to make a resolution. Why wait for the new year?
What's your New Year's resolution?
To have a baby.
Ooh.
I think my New Year's resolution is to spend more time with my kids.
Be a better father.
Be nicer to my kids.
Be a better person, to be less irritable.
People get me crazy.
To give one genuine compliment to someone every day.
I just want to be a better bitch than before.
What's your New Year's resolution?
Oh my God.
For 2020, hopefully put a little bit more spice into my sex life.
Have more sex.
Having sex on top of a mountain.
I want to find love.
Fall in love.
I want to be open to love, I guess, again.
Well, it does get more interesting. I do start effing and jeffing. That's why I've cut it there. But if you want to see the whole video, it's available. Just looking up 100 people give their New Year's resolutions on YouTube. And subscribe to that particular channel because they've got some incredible videos on it as well. So we were talking before about your vision board, which is a culmination of all the things you really want to have in your life. I'll show you mine here, and so I've got some clear sections I'll share with you. Getting fit again, which unfortunately didn't happen this year. Lockdown hijacked a lot of it, but now I'm going to start all that again because I feel that I've got through the challenges. I wanted to concentrate this year more than anything. I'm sure this is true for any fathers or mothers or providers in the family. I had 3 priorities. First one was to make sure that we had a roof over our heads. Second one was to make sure there's money coming on to keep it. And the third one, which is kind of the same as all of them really, is to make sure we all stayed healthy. Healthy did not mean fit. Healthy meant we don't catch coronavirus, and mentally we're still close and above water. And so now that's kind of become a norm. I feel that I can go back to my vision board and start changing it to where I want it to be. So things like getting awards, that's already started to happen, which is great. I wanted to travel, especially to Canada. That's not happened, but I have got connections in Canada, so you never know what's going to happen. Starting to make automatic money, which is beautiful, passive earning income. Creating my speaker agency is on the way. Connecting with a peer group. Peer groups have changed quite considerably as well because, I mean, there you can see Gary Vaynerchuk and, let's see, Grant Cardone, Les Brown, and a couple of other superstars there. Here's the thing. It's been a big challenge for many speakers to still stay relevant if you can't do speaking gigs. So they have to reinvent themselves and start to do shows like this. Otherwise, they're just unemployed speakers, which means that they're putting stuff out into social media that nobody is using as the same kind of judge of how good they are as the power that they used to have on stage. So for many speakers, it's been a case of reinventing, and there's a couple of other things on there which are kind of important to me. So you can make your own vision board. It doesn't have to be like mine. It could be anything. Make it as big or as small. It only has to translate to you. It doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. But vision boards are very effective, and because we tend to work in terms of pictures in our mind, then they're very effective. There's a thing called a reticular activatory system, and what it means is that our brain will work on images rather on words, which is why mind maps are really effective. Drawing pictures and lines between the pictures is better than what we get taught at school, which is doing long lists of facts and figures, which are really difficult to go back and review because they're just individual stacks. Our brains don't work like that. What we do is we find emotions and we find pictures that attach to the emotions, and they are programming our brains. Now, I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, so just bear with me if it sounds like it's a bit Fruit Loop. But anybody who's studied NLP as well, neuro-linguistic programming, will understand how this basically works. So your mind is a supercomputer, and it works on whatever you program it to do. So therefore, if you're a negative person and you say terrible things about the world is horrible and everyone hates me, it goes, the boss has told me the world is horrible and everyone hates me. That's what I'm going to start working on. So it'll find more examples for you of how horrible the world is and how everybody's hating you. So that brings very negative people because they notice negativity all the time. You've got to ask better questions and say, no, it's a work in progress. I'm getting better at this. In fact, the world loves me. And I've got evidence that the world loves me, and also I'm going to be successful, and I'm on the way to being successful. And there's ways of phrasing it, ways of visualizing it. So your brain goes, oh, okay, the boss says that we're doing really well. That's good. Let's find more examples. And that has a knock-on effect. Like when you talk about doing a gratitude book, it's really effective because like gratitude book talks about all the stuff that you love and all the stuff that makes you happy and all the stuff you're grateful for, like being alive and breathing and all those kind of things. Really effective. So when you start thinking positively and you put them into a vision book like that, it really can have a huge impact of being able to help people to understand, well, help you understand more than anything, your brain to understand what you truly want from your life, as opposed to what you've been getting before because you've been programming it wrongly or allowing the world to program it for you. So for instance, if you only pay attention to the news only sells if it's negative news. You want to find out how bad the world is. If the news says, oh, the world's great and everyone's happy, you go, wrong news channel, click, where's the one that relates to me? But it fills you full of all the terrible things. Now, once you've been in lockdown, as we all have been, you realize that your life is actually more dominated by the things that are in your personal life than the things on the outside. You can't influence most of them because they just kind of happen. You just go react to how you react to how they happen. And so a vision board is a great way of getting your brain programmed for that. So that's what we're going to do next. If you want to make notes, then you can do. I love your comments. I love your thoughts. I love having you with me. It's a complete pleasure. Happy New Year to you, by the way. Make sure you say it back, because I love to hear it. And also, let me know what your New Year's resolutions are. And when you make them, then also you can consider it putting one of them, or at least all of them, into a vision board. And this is how you do it. Coming up next on Speak on Stage.
A vision board is a powerful tool that helps you achieve your goals and make your dreams come true. But what exactly is a vision board? It is a collection of images that represent the things you want in your life, material and spiritual. By creating a vision board, you organize and visualize your dreams, and by using it, you keep your goals in mind all the time, focus on them, and more likely to achieve them. How does it work? The vision board contains images that mean something to you, fill you with good feelings, and drive you to take action. It generates those kind of feelings that motivate you. Creating a vision board is very simple, and there are many ways to do it. First, you need to make a list of all the things you want. What kind of person you want to be? More confident? More loving? Happier? What do you want to do? Be a doctor? A singer? Have your own business? What kind of feelings you want to have? Love? Happiness? Peace? What type of people you want in your life? Supportive friends? People you can laugh with, enjoy with? What kind of person is your ideal partner? How is your relationship going to be? Where do you want to live? In a city, a village? Do you want to have a penthouse, a house with a garden? What material things do you want? A new phone? A car? Maybe a popcorn machine or a pirate ship? Add more things as you like, but make sure that they are as detailed and specific as possible. Don't just write motorbike. Write also which type, what color. When you're being specific, you get a clear picture of what you want exactly. The second step is collecting pictures that represent the things you've written. You can cut pictures from magazines, download pictures from the internet, or even use your own photos. I recommend to add also pictures of your hobbies, photos of your family and friends, and photos in which you're happy and smiling. It will make your brain associate the things you want with the things you already have and generate good feelings. After you've got all the pictures, it's time to organize them. Get a large corkboard and pin the pictures to it. If you have too many pictures to fit the board, put them in collages. Each collage will contain pictures of the same category. You don't have to be a graphic designer. There are many collage makers online which are simple to use. You can also add motivational and inspirational quotes or sentences that describe what you want, then place it next to the relevant pictures. It's also possible to make a wish book. Buy an empty book or a notebook and design each page with a different subject. A vision board is more effective because it's more visible, so I'd recommend to make a wish book in addition, not instead. Now that your vision board or wish book is made, you're ready to use it. Hang the board on a visible spot where you can see it every day. Look at it through the day, take a few moments to think about these things you want. I recommend to do it when you wake up, so it will give you energy and keep you focused, and right before you go to sleep, so it will be planted in your conscious and subconscious. You can hang notes at different visible spots like on the mirror or on the fridge. You can also save pictures to your phone and set them as background or cover pictures, and even as your computer wallpaper. This way, you will see your goals and make sure to keep them in mind. A vision board can help a lot, but it's not enough. You must take actions to create the reality you want to live. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or requests, just write down in the comments. If you liked the video, please press the like button and subscribe to see future videos.
So if you just joined me, nice to see you. Welcome to our last show of the year. And it's Happy New Year to everybody. If you've already crossed over that hurdle and you're in 2021, is it nicer over there? It's like, you know, these have you ever seen Stargate, where they go through a portal and they go to a different world, and you look back and you say, I can see your house is gone. Who could have guessed? It's like that kind of experience now, where some people are in the next year, some people aren't in the next year. As I'm speaking to you, I'm not in the next year, but when you watch this later, I might be in the next year, and it looks exactly like it does now. But you are a little bit older by 1 year, kind of. Well, it doesn't even work like that, does it? But it doesn't matter. The fact is, when you put your vision board together and you create things that create your own world, then you can choose how you want it to be affected and how fast you want to move into where you want to be. And it also means that age doesn't matter. I mean, I won't tell you how old I am, really old, but you can choose who you want to be by the fact that when you're really full of energy and you're doing the stuff that you love, you don't age. It's only when you slow down and shut down, then you start to feel that the whole world and the years are catching up with you. So next up, I want to look at goal setting tips. I've already mentioned the fact the best way to make a goal is to set up a system. Let's do a deep dive into what that truly means. And I think you'll find it interesting. Taking notes of this. Also leave your comments. What's your New Year's resolution? Say hi. Happy New Year from me. Subscribe, by the way, so you don't miss shows like this in the future. And this is next, your goal setting tips on Speak On Stage.
When it comes to chasing our dreams, the only way I know to track our progress is to create milestones. Milestones show us what we are accomplishing and allow us to see how we accomplish even more. If you have stopped to read any of the statistics or articles on goal setting before, you will have read two things. 1. People without goals are not as successful as they hope to be. 2. People who don't write down goals are less likely to accomplish them. What I have found over the last 10 years of dream chasing is how important goals are in the grand picture of seeing your dreams come true. Goals give us momentum to push through adversity we experience while chasing our dreams. This year, there was a huge push not to set goals. People were sharing about how terrible they felt last year when they failed to meet their goals, or how they never really follow through with achieving them. So, should we even set goals to try to see our dreams come true? Yes! The problem for so many people is that they haven't created goals which will help them succeed, and their inability to follow through because of fear or poor goal creation holds them back. This was me about 10 years ago. I would set goals at the beginning of the year and then never go back and look at them. I would have these really vague, general ideas of things I wanted to accomplish, but never create action steps or any plans to achieve anything. This is why goals fail. You have probably heard of the SMART goal system. This is a great system. In fact, when I finally got tired of never accomplishing my goals, I learnt about it and started to see some of my goals achieved. And then I learnt about the ER in goal setting. Let's start putting some goals together using the SMARTer system. Specific. Sounds pretty simple, right? Just write something down that is specific. The question is, how specific do I need to be? The answer? The more specific you are, the easier it will be to quantify your results along the way. For example, if you want to lose weight, to be more specific, how much weight do you want to lose? Better yet, what weight would you like to be at the end of pursuing your goal? A specific goal says this: I will weigh 200 pounds. We want to quantify our goals. To make a goal measurable, we need to be able to see progress over time. Say your goal is to write a novel. How do we make it measurable? You will need to make it very specific and measurable by going into more detail which you can track. A specific goal for writing a novel is, I will complete writing a 50,000 word novel. Every goal should be actionable in terms of getting somewhere. However, when writing goals, we are talking about writing it as an action. A goal is actionable when it is immediately clear what action needs to be taken to accomplish it. A simple way to make items actionable is to begin them with a verb. So, try this. I will read 24 books. The R in the equation is relevant or relatable. Is your goal relevant or relatable to your life? When you are setting goals, this is the pragmatic look at what you want to do. When you set a goal, you need to think about your current situation. Some people will tell you to make a 10 times goal. Create a goal that is nearly impossible to force you to stretch yourself. While I think this is good, it's not for the first timer or for someone struggling at their goals. You need to create goals you can accomplish at your stage in life. Are you a father of 3 small children who works 2 jobs? You may not be able to work out 3 hours a day if you want to reach 3% body fat. Try this. I will decrease my percentage body fat by 10%. My start percent is X. Every goal needs a deadline. Why? So you are forced to take action in a certain time frame. Simply saying you will do something isn't good enough. You need to say when you will complete it. This way, you will need to map your path to success. Otherwise, you will always have the goal, but never have the urgency to accomplish it. Going back to the novel example, I will write a 50,000-word novel by December the 31st. Evaluate. This is where the rubber meets the road when it comes to your goals. We need to regularly evaluate our progress. When I ask people how often they looked at their goals, they say a few times over the year. This is why people fail at their goals. I evaluate my goals every month, and every week I read them. This helps me to remember what I am trying to do and make sure I take action every week. If there is anything you do differently about your goals, this needs to be it. Reward. Every goal and milestone needs a reward. We love getting something for a job well done. And when we are working towards our dreams, these little earned items help us to celebrate our milestones and be ready for the next step. Here is an example of a reward for paying off debt. Pay off debt by December the 31st. Buy one thing for $100 you would never buy for yourself. You may have really struggled with goals before, and if you're like me, you might have even failed all of the goals you set yourself in a year. But this doesn't have to be true of you anymore. You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. C.S. Lewis. I love this quote because it reminds me how the goals we set for ourselves now, no matter our age or station in life, will help us change our story in the end. They will help us chase our dreams and see them come true.
Well, you with me so far? Great. Happy New Year, by the way. Got to say that a number of different times for every time zone that we come across. Love your thoughts and comments. I'm Dave Crane, and this is the last time you're going to see me in Santa's Grotto for a while, for at least another 12 months, because, well, Dubai doesn't snow very often, but it does in Mall of the Emirates, where they had their very own special ski slope. With penguins and stuff. You think I'm joking? I'm not joking. Come to Dubai, you'll find out I'm not joking. All right then. So a number of things we've got to look at then is how we actually choose to work our goals and how we make them congruous to things that we truly want from our lives. Now this is something that even if you're a bit skeptical about, why not? Because what's the worst thing that could happen? Maybe it becomes true. Maybe it becomes a reality for you. Well, next up, we're going to look at what it could be if in a business position you want to reinvent yourself. How do I position myself so people will start to go, okay, I want to hire that person. I'll show you exactly how I go about branding, and that's up next. So next up, we're going to do a deep dive into my own website. This one is bookdavecrane.com. This is one I use to sell to the world. Here I am, come and work with me. And if I show you what I've got on it, it's got a number of different sections here about the gigs I've done, who I've worked with. It's got videos, it's got show reels, and this is all optimized and changed to becoming somebody who works from a laptop and communicates all around the world about virtual meetings and so on. Go to bookdavecrane.com and you can have a look at it. So I've had to evolve it from being on stage with lots of audiences to being something completely different. Now you might be rightly so turning around and saying, Dave, that looks easy for you to do, But what about me? I'm not used to doing that kind of thing. It looks like a bit of a complicated website. That's why you should only consider maybe doing something like this one. Much smaller website. Here we go. So this is a DubaiMotivationalSpeaker.com. It's a one-pager. Now with this one, it was created just because I was doing a lot of work in the Dubai market. Now I'm doing work all around the world, especially now with the lockdown. But it's a single page. There's no tabs, no nothing to click. Everything just goes to a booking form. Can you see that? With pictures of the gigs I've done, Enrique, there's John Lacey, the racing driver, rugby sevens, dancing and singing with the cheerleaders, working with Kanye West, you can just see the corner here, Hrithik Roshan, Gary Garrawell, Jack Canfield, James Brown, Bruce Willis there, and working with some big companies like Cisco. So all these different elements are on a single page website. So you might be thinking, oh my goodness, I could never do that. How do I turn around and suddenly start working and getting my name out there, my brand out there, and people gravitating towards me? Surely nobody's going to pay me that much attention. It's not that difficult. If you go to a website like Fiverr, for instance, Fiverr.com or freelancer.com, or there's many other places, you can get somebody who makes websites who can take your details, you've got to compile them and get your photos and your videos and all the rest of it, but people can do all that stuff and compile it for you. You can be seen as a freelancer and also start your side hustle very cost effectively. And if you have a job, then it's great because it works a second thing. And if you don't have a job, well, what have you got to lose? Because right now, it's a real challenge to go for job interviews, and they may not be the way that they were in the past. So look for an opportunity to reinvent yourself. I was chatting to a friend of mine the other day, Nakila, who's meeting me in Dubai with her husband, who's fantastic. So we're chatting away in a coffee shop, socially distanced, and she's talking about how much she enjoys making a little sort of a jungle in her living room with lots of little pot plants. And I said, that could be a whole side business. You do a lot of videos for people who like to set up, people who live on their own, or people who haven't got a garden, or people who just want to create something to look after in their front room, and suddenly you've got an audience who'd want to buy stuff from you. It might be 10 people, it might be 1,000 people, it might be 500, it doesn't matter, but there is an audience that wants to know. And for you, it'll be the same thing. So never think that what you do isn't wanted by anybody. It's just maybe not the masses of people, but you don't need the masses. You can monetize 1,000 people and live from that very happily for the rest of your life. Next up, let's look at how New Year's resolutions can stick. And we're going to a cheat sheets on Speak on Stage. So here we are back again with the cheat sheets, and as always I go through what I believe is the fastest way for you to make things happen just by working your way through. I've already shown you this, my vision board. We've explained today's show all about New Year's resolutions and vision boards, but you may have decided, Dave, I want to lose weight, I want to deal with stress better, I want to make money, I want to become fit, I want to make more friends, I want to, a whole lot of different stuff. But the problem is, how do I make that actually work? Because I've done it over years ago, tried to stop smoking, didn't work. Well, try means a lot, actually. When you say try, it means attempt to do something and fail to achieve. That's what it means in your mind when you say the word try. So instead of saying try, say I will do or I won't do. Yes or no. Because that way your brain will go, okay, and it'll literally work on that. If you say try, it's kind of like I'll leave it and I'll not come back to it until I feel really guilty. Just to let you know. So let's go back to this whole thing. So we're looking at here, what are the key elements that you need to know to make a New Year's resolution work? First of all is this. Don't do the goals. We've already had a video on goals, but that was really playing into what I was saying here. Create systems that allow you to reflect on what you need to do. Break it down into steps. Make it a business model on how your stuff is achieved. So for instance, if you want to stop smoking, get onto a hypnotherapist, find a substitute for you that'll be something to keep you occupied, and also just keep being busy until you've broken the addiction and the habit. That's a short, easy way of doing it. But you can always just go on Google it, and you'll get a million different answers. You don't have to feel you're in isolation, even if you're living on your own. Number two, don't be dependent on the 1st or 2nd of January. Set goals as and when you need them. Now, we've already seen the fact that sometimes goals can last really well, especially if they're set at the beginning of the year, if they're written down or they're visualized. But why not just make them all the time? When you need something, use it. Set a goal. create it, add it to your vision board, and that way it's becoming a normal concern. Some things happen quickly, some things happen more slowly, but it doesn't matter as long as they do happen. Number 3 is this: make smaller resolutions and stick to one. Use it whenever you can. Now here's the thing, when you make a smaller resolution, and it's not, make a manageable one, not one like, oh, I will stand up and sit down again. No, that's pretty easy. Everyone can do that, or most people can do that. What you need to do is make it so it's a couple of stages ahead. You've got to make the effort. You've got to be stretched and challenged, because once you start going down that discomfort zone of doing stuff slightly different than the way that you'd normally do it, what it allows you to do then is start understanding that you can do this, but you can also do it further, because it becomes a habit and becomes normal. I've been doing daily breathing exercises. I know we all breathe, but there's a specific thing called Art of Living, where it's like yoga meditation, but as breathing exercises with meditation built in. And I do this about 4 o'clock, 4:30 every morning. And you're meant to do 40 days on the trot to get yourself into the rhythm of doing it. I'm now into day 70 or something, literally just because I started doing it, set myself a goal of hitting 40, and now it's become my daily routine. Every morning I do some time breathing, as you do, but I mean special breathing. I know you do. Anyway, moving on. Number 4, get specific with your plans. Really go down and deep dive into them. Who, what, where, why, and how. How will you know it's going to happen? Are you going to reward yourself when it happens as well? Make sure you do, to make sure that it becomes worthwhile. Okay, I showed you my vision board earlier, and why would I share something as private as that? Well, because I want to hold myself to it. I didn't feel that 2020, who did, was a year that I could really stay as accountable to that as I was to my family and to my health and to everybody else that was relying on me. But now that things have kind of balanced out a little bit better, I can throw my resolution out there, and people will say to me, Dave, we saw it, how are you getting on with this and how are you getting on with that? And I want to be able to turn around and say, it's working. I don't want to go la 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 la, because what's the point in making it? So commit to doing it. Commit to other people. That way they will hold you accountable and will give you a hard time and abuse, especially if you do a job like mine and people say, well, how can we believe anything else that you've said if you've shown us your vision board and you're not doing the stuff that you talk about? See? All comes together. Right then, number 6, plan your follow through. So what is it that you're going to be doing to make sure it all happens? And then chunk it down. I've already mentioned about this. Do it in reverse order. So here's the thing for you. End result is, say you're going to stop smoking, or say that you're gonna get a side hustle going. You don't know what the side hustle is, but you want to have that up and running in 6 months. So in 6 months, and you can do it on a map, you can just write it out on a bit of paper. 6 months here, you put have job. Side hustle is up and running. Then you can go, what happened the day before that? Launch the website. Day before that, just check the website. And then you do it in steps, all the way through to the present day on this side. And what was the first thing you did? Made a plan. Or asked a friend, or Googled it, or look for somebody who does this already, who can advise me. And then that 6 months becomes much easier. And when you've written it down, you find that you usually achieve those things much, much faster than you would do if you were just basically ambling towards doing it. Because the steps can happen a much faster way when they're planned and kept as part of your normal day and normal routine. All right, number 7, check in with yourself regularly. That's the first thing and last thing. Also, you can put your vision board onto your display on your phone. So on your phone or on your laptop or on your screen, or get it printed out, put it onto a wall so you can see it all the time. Before you go to bed, think, how close am I to making this a reality? But when you wake up, first thing, look at it and say, how close am I? The reason for doing it before you go to bed is it also programs your subconscious mind, which is full of really interesting machinery and engineering bits that can work on your brain, work on your plan, work on your schedule and your vision board while you sleep. So while you're going, your brain is working on new ideas for you. And if you're thinking I'm talking a bit weird, have you ever had a situation where you're talking to a friend about a movie and he's saying, right, what's the actor, the name of that guy? It was in Dog Day Afternoon, and he was in, was he in Tootsie? No, it wasn't him in Tootsie. He was in, what else is it? The Godfather. And you're going, I can't remember his name. I can see him, but I can't remember him. Oh, it will come back to me. And then at 4 in the morning, you wake up and you go, Al Pacino! Al Pacino! That was it. Because your brain's working on stuff that you're interested in. So when you program it before you go to bed, it will carry on working and it won't keep you awake. It's a separate part below the surface that looks after you. Trust me. I'm a hypnotherapist. All right, number 8, celebrate the small successes in life. It's really important to celebrate. If you just go, yeah, expected, your brain stops being excited about it and it stops getting all your machinery to look after you. It's true. And that's part of the thing about grit. I will do a show in the new year all about grit. And grit is something that's my one superpower. I'm not particularly brilliant at anything apart from I'm pretty consistent at working on it. And I outlast people at working on it as well. So grit is something that separates everything. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, grit is not necessarily the stuff they put on the road to get rid of all the sludge and all the snow. It's a mindset about being gritty and working. And when you're good at grit, it means a couple of different things I'll talk about very briefly here. It's been shown that if you have a lot of grit in the way that you develop your life and your career, it will go better for you in the long term than being better trained, being connected, being good looking, being connected to the right kind of people, going to the right university. Even if you're going in the army and you're super disciplined, grit is a combination of emotional intelligence, consistency, reacting to challenges, and working your way past them. There is a definitive way of doing it. I will do a full show all about grit. I'm actually going to share with you a video that I made all about grit in today's show at the end. So grit is worth having. All right, so that's celebrate the small successes, and they help you with your grit as you get your things done. Number 9, be consistent, if not constant. Here's why I say consistent, if not constant. I don't expect everybody all the time to do it every single day. Some days are bad days. Some days you lapse. For many people who start smoking, and then they stop smoking, and then they have a bad day where they just get really stressed, have a cigarette, and they feel they've undone everything. Excuse me. Or if you're losing weight and you've had a toffee or you've had a chocolate bar because you've had a terrible day, it doesn't mean the whole thing's hijacked. It just means you've got a blip in the system. You were doing fine. Press a reset button, start again. Remember, it's a journey of you versus you, not you versus anybody else. So it doesn't matter that much what happens, apart from it really will help you in this and in other things if you can get your head around moving forward. Really powerful stuff to do. So it is a solo journey. It is you. I know it's difficult. I know it is challenging, but don't worry about it. You're not on your own. You've got loads of other people, including me, who will be happy to hear what you're doing and give you advice as we go. So remember that as well. Number 10, work the fastest and most reliable way to win. There is a shortcut. It doesn't have to be the hardest way to get there. There is a fast track to go from A to B. Work out what it is, get advice, get a mentor. The people who come to me for the Industry Icon program don't come to me because they like the look of my face. They come to me because I've done the stuff that I tell them I can help them with, and so I give them advice as a mentor, and I coach them as well. So it means that they don't get there by accident. They get there because I've seen the pitfalls, and I can tell them exactly what to do, what not to do. Why? Because I've been in entertainment and engaging the audiences and in business and speaking around the world for over 50 years. Yes, I know. And so I know what I'm talking about. So if you want to take a copy of this, these are the 10 ways to make New Year's resolutions that work and stick. And I think you'll find that kind of useful as you move off on your journey. Right, next up, let's have a look at the Industry Icon program and how you can reinvent yourself. If you haven't got a clue about what to do for your New Year's resolutions, you could start with this. In a perfect world, life would be the same. We'd be living the new normal, and we'd just resume the game. But it isn't perfect, it's what it is. That doesn't mean that you have to be. We've lost friends, we've lost money, might have even lost family. Now we have better opportunities than ever before. Reinvent yourself, grow your personal brand, connect to many, many more. Go from 1 million to 1 billion. Find your voice, become an industry icon, and make success your choice. So with that in mind, with Industry Icon Program, I've already talked about this before. I mentioned the fact if you go to the website, SpeakOnstage, and then you see the big picture of me, and then you click on the button above my head just here, the Industry Icon gold button, then you can go through to find the green button, which you can see over here. Press on that, and then you can take a survey, and you've got lots of different options on what you want to do, whether you want to learn automatically to speak and grow your brand on your own, or you want to work with me on a short-term basis, or want to work with me on a long-term basis. There are lots of different ways to be able to reinvent yourself, especially this time of year. New Year is the best time to reward yourself by doing something really groovy with it. And with that, we also look at this. So this is a very quick look at the roadmap that I share with people about being able to move forward. Everything is built in. So when I work with my clients with the Industry Icon Program, we go through everything they need to do, social media, how to reinvent themselves, creating challenges that they can find and work through, which are called hurdles. When you start jumping through them over a timeline, then you start instantly outpacing everybody else in your industry. When you're able to move on and choose your future, you can pace yourself to actually run with that. Imagine doing a marathon. The guys who do marathons and do long distance running have pacemakers who run along with them. And those people who run along with them are not expected to win the race. They're just expected to start fast, so everyone tries to keep up with them. Then later on, they'll drop down to wherever, even if they don't even finish the race, they've got a pace moving for it. When you're doing something different, you might find it very hard to find a pace setter. With this, I help people find a pace setter. Sometimes it's the leading person in the industry, and sometimes it's somebody in a different industry, but they can watch the progress and grow together. So with that, that's all part of a package. When we do the Industry Icon Program, contact me directly through my many social media, and I'd love to have a chat with you. You can set up a Calendly link, we'll chat for 10 minutes, and I'll start you for the new year if you're interested in working with me on the Industry Icon Program. Well, that brings us to a close almost. Happy New Year, as I said before. Make sure you say Happy New Year, Dave, because that makes me feel good. Remember, whatever happened in the last year isn't going to go away, but the way that you deal with it has changed. It's all about your reactions. It's all about your choices. It's all about the things that you decide to do, not what happens to you. And if you have got the grit, and if you have got the determination to keep moving, you can redefine yourself every single day to be who you want yourself to be. You're not a victim of your circumstances unless you decide that's the victim you want to be. If, like me, you don't listen to what anybody tells you you should be, and you do your own thing, then you can create and design the person that you want to be on a regular basis. You can do it every single day if you want to. But it also means that what happens around you, pandemic, no pandemic, recession, no recession, does not get in the way of you still being able to do what you want on your journey. You just go, oh, okay, it's changed a bit. Fine, I'll change that to fit in with it. So I'm going to leave you with a video called Grit. It's about 4 minutes long. I want you to watch this video from start to finish. And it's got a counter so you can see. Here's the background to this story. I used to, in the good old days, train rooms full of people to become speakers. I do it all online now on Zoom, but I used to do it in the World Trade Center in Dubai. If you've ever been to the World Trade Center anywhere or been to one in Dubai, you know it's a massive building with about 30 plus floors, of which the Trade Center Club where I would train is on the 33rd floor. So I wondered, could I get out of my car in the car park on a Saturday, carrying my sandwiches and my drinks and my laptop, you'll hear it going ching 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 and making a rustling noise, and still talk into my tripod with my phone on it and narrate what you need to have grit until I get to the very top. Now bear in mind, I could have been stopped by the policeman, you see. I could have had the people who are in the elevator next to me going, oh, what are you doing, what are you doing, in which case I'd have to stop and talk to them. The elevator could have taken half an hour to arrive. Also, I could have run out of interesting things to say relating to the topic of grit. But this is where it comes. Your consistency, your stickability, and your ability to be successful is about knowing your limits and pushing them as you, not anybody else. I figured in a perfect storm, I could get from the car to the rooftops in one go. And this is how I got on. So with that, I'm going to say thank you so much for joining me. It's been an utter pleasure. Look after yourself, stay groovy, and make sure in the new year you've got plenty of grit. Much love. Bye-bye. Dave Crane. Let me tell you about grit. Most people think it's easy, but they don't really understand it. It's a long story. It's about a long journey. And if you really want to make a difference in your life, then grit's the way that you'll do it. Let me explain. It means pain. It means perseverance on a worldwide scale. It's taking yourself to the next level, and most people don't do that. They don't realize the journey, it doesn't stop. You keep your eyes on the prize. You go wide and never ever let it stop. You go on a journey like this, looking around, wondering where it's going, where's it leading me? And when you stop, you have to take a breath. You have to realize, not everybody's on your side. Most people don't understand. But grit is the one thing that'll take you on your journey. Let me show you something. And I'm exhausted. Because the way that it takes you is grit has always got to be trusted. It's a one thing, a unifier that guarantees you will go to a higher level in your life. Because somehow you will know, nobody else does. Nobody else gets it. Nobody else knows just how much it takes to make it. So is grit the same as perseverance? Is it the same as resilience? Is it the same as talking? Is it the same as goals? It's all the above. But here's the difference. If you decide you've got grit, and it doesn't matter where you're from, grit beats all. It beats smarts. It beats intelligence. It beats strength of character. It just means you keep your eyes on the prize and you keep pushing, non-stop. And that's what we do. Keep pushing. And it means you spend a lot of time on your own, on a journey. Nobody gets it, nobody knows, nobody understands. And as you travel, there's people that travel with you. And they don't know why you're doing it. And you don't have to explain it either. But tests have shown, if you've got grit, the big change that it makes for you is you always become with it. You can move, and you never change. And people come and go, but they always say the same thing. Why do you do this? Why do you stick with it? Why do you just take the easy route? But you can't. Grit doesn't work that way. You lose friends, you lose family, you lose money, you change towns, go to a new venue, find new hurdles, get friends, get down. Everybody looks and they step off. You take a new journey with you, but the way to stick with it is grit will see you through. If you believe in yourself and you're strong enough, you don't, then you're never going to make it. But here's the thing, if you've got grit, you're always going to take it. And then at the end of your journey, and it doesn't matter who you are, just pushing yourself further and further will get you to somewhere special. And when you get there, you'll know that every single second was worth it. You'll know it. Because when you get to the top, and you look at that view, and you put down your stuff, and you know it's about you, you can smile, you can love, and you can see it was worth it.
Dear friend, do you mind if I have a word? It won't take much of your time, I promise. Let's skip the introductions, as we know each other quite well. Yes, it's me speaking, January the 1st. I know it hasn't been exactly easy since we last saw each other, but I'm here to remind you that we're about to meet again very soon. And so I thought I'd share a piece of advice. A word, really. But one that will help you get through the other 364 days with ease. And the word is movement. That's right, movement. I'd love to see you start the year doing just that. Moving. And I don't just mean the exercise kind. I mean movement of the spirit, of the soul. Move, so you can move someone else's heart. Move, so you can find the inspiration to create, to invent. You see, when you're moving, there's no time for fear, for doubts, because it pushes you forward, makes you stronger, wiser. So take my word, write it down on a napkin, put it in your smartphone. Movement inspires. And when put into action, it will make every single day of your year count. Starting with me, your friend, January the 1st.
Hi, welcome to episode 81 of the Toilet Paper Diaries, and this is the Golden Throne Awards. We'll be reviewing the good, the bad, and the ugly of the last 12 months and awarding who we believe really made a big impact. Some of them will be going down, flushed away forever, but some will be left to float on top to be admired by the universe. It will make sense. Stick with us. It's the Toilet Paper Diaries.
And welcome to the annual Golden Throne Awards. If you have been having your head on the toilet for the last 12 months, possibly you do not know exactly what happened this year. But if not, let's just get reminded. Have a look.
seeks not to divide, but unify.
Absolutely, this is the real-life Game of Thrones, and the pun is intended with the toilet paper diaries looking at who's going to win a Golden Throne Award. And we're going to go to our very first category, and that is the most ignored news. These are the things that happened that you wouldn't have believed happened, and because we had COVID to deal with, we just ignored and won't even think about it again. So the nominees are murder hornets. Do you remember the murder hornets? They were all going to kill us, certainly in America. Big bite-sized things that were going to sting us all to death. And they were pipped at the post by coronavirus.
Our next nominee are going to be the monkeys getting and stealing the COVID-19 samples. If you possibly remember, apparently there was this lab that they left the window open. Some monkeys went inside and stole some of the samples. And of course that created big chaos. After 24 hours, completely ignored in the news.
Nothing surprises me. Your next nominee is Poland invading the Czech Republic. Did you know that happened? Well, it only happened for a short amount of time, and both countries went, you know what, should we just leave it there? Should we just carry on? You go back? And went, yeah, okay. And it disappeared. But it could have been an incident in any other year, but not in 2020. It wasn't big enough.
Our next nominee are going to be the UFOs that the Pentagon released the footage, and it was all over the news for 1 or 2 news cycles. It was trending on Twitter and YouTube, and within 48 hours, it disappeared from the news. In any other year, this would have been huge news, but not in 2020.
Probably because nobody could understand why aliens would want to take a planet as damaged as ours has been in this year. Next nominee is asteroid narrowly missing Earth. Did you know before the US elections, we were all meant to be hit by a huge asteroid that we didn't think was going to hit, but there's a slight percentage chance it would have done a huge amount of damage to the planet. Well, it didn't arrive, and we stayed damaged anyway. So, who cares? Next.
Next nominee is going to be the Donald Trump impeachment in January. Actually, it was in December 2019 when this whole ordeal started. But the House of Representatives and the Senate decided that they didn't want to proceed, and he was just absolved. There was no issues, but little did we know what was going to happen afterwards.
They would have made a big thing of it, but they had bigger things to contend with literally about a month later. But around about the same time, the whole world was looking at our next nominee, which is the Australian bushfires. Do you remember the chaos as we saw so many species wiped away forever, and the unstoppable climate problems that were being caused at the beginning of the year? Now, it seems like a mere hors d'oeuvre.
And our final nominee, it's going to be the war with Iran. I remember it was January 6th, 2020, that we woke up with the news that the United States has now bombed Iran and killed General Soleimani, and we thought that that might be a start of a huge conflict. Nothing happened.
Which I'm so glad about. Lots of friends in America, lots of friends in Iran, and lots of friends who would have been involved. All gone, but they don't even count. So when we look at it, the winner of the Golden Throne Award for the most ignored news event in a year cycle is Donald Trump's impeachment.
The yeas are 230, the nays are 197, present is 1. Article 1 is adopted.
It was a big thing, it was an old thing, and it will stay in history, but nobody cares anymore.
Our next category, we decided to call it the Fake News Fever Award. And this one is an interesting one because we're going to be covering all the people that were fibbing or lying during the fake news cycles. And our first nominee is going to be Rudy Giuliani, which I think Rudy, it's a prime character in many of our categories because of all the crazy things that he has been doing, besides leaking oil out of his head and besides getting caught in bed in the Borat film. But yeah, Rudy is #1 nominee.
Brilliant. Andy farts in court, which is something you can't remember or you should never forget. Next up is Kayleigh McEnany, who, as the press secretary for Donald Trump, had to come up with some big whoppers, covering for her boss. And only time will tell how many were true and how many were not true. But with fake news, does it really matter?
Yeah. Our next nominee is going to be Tucker Carlson. Tucker is a very famous news anchor in Fox News, which seems to be always talking with the truth. But if we just measure how many Pinocchios he has had as they rate them, sometimes we have absolutely no idea.
And our next nominee is CNN. Now, CNN, some people believe, some people don't believe, but it doesn't really matter. The ultimate fact is, to a large amount of the population, maybe even 48% of the US, believe that CNN and MSNBC and BBC and many others are actually fake news. In fact, now many believe that Fox News is also fake. So is that true? Is it not true? I suppose it depends on what you call the actual truth or manufactured truth.
And our last nominee is going to be Donald Trump, which, according to many news sources, he has provided us with 20,000 plus lies in 2020. So we just basically have to figure out how much of that is actually true or lie or fake.
And the winner of the Golden Throne Award for the #1 fake news fibber in 2020 is
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. We can't argue that. 20,000 proven lies. The guy is a genius. Some of them are funny, some of them are skeptical, some of them just entertained us, and some of them drove people over a cliff. Take it, leave it, love it, hate it. Donald Trump wins our Golden Throne Award for the Fake News Fibber 2020.
It's true. It's true. It's true. It's true. You know, and it's true. Ah, it's true. 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 But it's true. It's true. And it's true. It's true. Actually, that's true.
So our next category for the Golden Throne Award is for the weirdest person. And these are people who popped up in the news, made everyone go, and more times than never was on the news cycle just because people were in shock about they didn't believe what was going to come next. In any script or any movie, we would have loved them because of the fact that they were such endearing and unbelievable characters, but in real life, you can't fake this because they were real. And the nominees are, #1, Rudy Giuliani. The guy, love him or hate him, genius, baddie, or just huggable uncle if you don't mind the farts, has all through the year and all through the last couple of years come up with some incredible stories, always loyal to Trump, sometimes mega cringeworthy in the way that he will say things, but most times you can't take your eyes off him because you never know which part of him is going to leak next.
So our next nominee is going to be Tiger King. This one just came out of nowhere, and suddenly it became around March or April 2020 the biggest thing on television, and it just shown people a very weird way of how human beings can be. So that's our second nominee.
And our third nominee for weirdest person is Donald Trump. Now, I know many people are going to go, no, there's nothing weird about him at all. The hair, the drinking the water, the going down the ramp, the dancing, all these elements were kind of weird. Even if you want to say they're not that weird, they're kind of normal for him. Every single time he came out with something even more interesting and challenging. And we're trying our best to be neutral here, but he was very good at it. And the winner is, for the Golden Throne Award for the weirdest person,
Rudy Giuliani.
There we go.
And
we love him.
Here's a compilation of all the craziness that Rudy brought to this year. Have a look.
Put down your crumb. She's 15. She's too old for you.
Why are you
No, she's my daughter. Please, take me instead. Take my anus. No, take my anus. Do not have her.
The answer that I gave you is they didn't bother to interview a single witness. Just like you, they don't want to know the truth.
Not part of that.
I will ask that he be disciplined for that. First of all, hold on. First of all,
Odor in the court. Rudy Giuliani is full of hot air. If you like content like this, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. As Giuliani works to undermine the results of the presidential election, Donald Trump's lawyers' list of awkward media appearances continues to grow. There was the notorious Philadelphia press conference at Four Seasons Total Landscaping, which is, as the name suggests, a landscaping company and not a luxury hotel. Then there was the Washington, D.C. event where he seemingly melted before the cameras as hair dye leaked down his face. And on Wednesday night, there was a chaotic and conspiracy-filled hearing in Lansing, Michigan, in which not one but two fart sounds could be heard as Giuliani spoke about 4 hours into the lengthy event.
single witness. He be disciplined for that.
Many people noticed that Jenna Ellis, another attorney assisting Giuliani in spreading lies about Biden's victory, seemed to give him a side-eye glance upon hearing the second fart noise. Too bad she refused to wear a mask.
Rudy's the uncle that everybody wishes they'd had, but just wouldn't own up to. And I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed having him around all the way through this year. May he continue to inspire and shock us in equal amounts in 2021. Our next award in our Golden Throne Awards is for the Breakout Star of the Year. Now, these are the people who suddenly shot to the headlines and everybody knew exactly who they were. They talked about them. Some loved them, some hated them, some felt emotionally attached to them, but at every stage they started conversations and made a huge impact around the world. And the nominees are, firstly, Tiger King. Joe may have looked like a normal Joe, but in fact, he had so many big cats and bears and wolves in his back garden, and 2 husbands at least to speak of, and he had a death threat feud going on with Carol Baskin, and he might have been impeached, or he might have been sent to prison earlier, and he was sent down for murder charges, and he was running for president, all in the same show. The show was so groundbreaking that you couldn't believe what was coming up next, and it wasn't scripted. It was the real deal. So that's the Tiger King.
The next nominee is going to be Charli D'Amelio. And possibly you have no idea who Charli D'Amelio was. However, she became the biggest star on TikTok. And she got the biggest amount of followers on TikTok. And she created all the incredible trends that got started with TikTok. Guy Vaynerchuk says, well, if you are not following Charli, you have no clue how social media and video platforms are going to be run. So incredible come out from a start.
Our next nominee is George Floyd. Tragically, the late George Floyd, unknown until his viral video of his last 9 minutes was shown when he was brutally slain by a policeman who kneeled on his neck. which started the I Can't Breathe campaign, and also the Black Lives Matter campaign, which erupted all around the planet as people came out in sympathy for systemic racism, for racial injustice, and also the fact that the police, for whatever reasons, weren't the right people when it came to looking after challenges involving people of color. So George Floyd was the spark for something that's been bubbling under for a very long time. So that's why it's George Floyd.
Our last nominee is going to be Blackpink. And if you have teenage daughters, or you're a teenager yourself, you possibly have heard of K-pop. K-pop has really broken every single record all over the place. K-pop starts with Korean pop, and there's a number of different groups like BTS and other groups that have really become incredibly famous. And Blackpink was absolutely no exception, and it came out of nowhere. And right now, it's one of the biggest influencers in the world. So our winner for the Golden Throne Award on this category, it's going to be
Tiger King.
Tiger King.
Without a doubt, what he did was bonkers. He's in prison now. He may well end up or not on the list of people who gets pardoned by Donald Trump on his way out. But one thing's for sure, whether you like him or hate him, Netflix did some incredible business. And I don't know how we're going to do it, but they may well have a season 2. Watch this space. So congratulations to Joe for Tiger King.
It's not every day that a zookeeper went to prison for murder for hire.
There are more captive tigers in the U.S. than there are in the wild throughout the world.
Animal people are nuts, man. They're all crazy. I'm sure y'all got a story to tell.
And next up is the Golden Throne Award for most unexpected behavior. These are the things that happened that we would never have seen if it hadn't been for the different things that happened in 2020. So coronavirus inspired us, it changed us, it drove us bonkers, but it also made us incredibly lazy in lots of different ways. So the first nominee for the unexpected behavior is loving the lockdown. Who would have believed that you'd be working from home, you'd be closer to your family, all living in isolation, but you'd have Stockholm syndrome of saying, actually, I'm in my house all the time. I kind of like it. This isn't as bad as it used to be. And you had to come to that conclusion because you had no choice.
Yeah. Our next nominee is going to be baking sourdough bread. Who would have said this would be a thing? But suddenly everybody was cooking their own bread. They were baking their own cakes. They were doing all sorts of things in the kitchen.
Our next nominee is sniffing your clothes. Now that sounds as gross as you know what I'm talking about, and it really is. When you're not going out for meetings and you're not necessarily worried about your personal hygiene because the people that you live with are just as much slobs as you are, you often now look at your clothes, which are only above the waist on Zoom, below the waist, doesn't matter, and you sniff them before you put them on because nobody is going to bump into you, and nobody even needs to know you've ever put on perfume or aftershave or even underarm deodorant. The only person who knows is you. So that's why this nomination is all about sniffing your stuff before you put it on again.
Can you show us exactly how that works, Dave?
How you sniff your stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, this is what happens. You find a nice shirt. Before you put it on, you go, and you go, it's okay. And then you put it on, and then you go, what is that? Ooh, not great. And before you leave to change, you go, we'll be all right.
And our last nominee is going to be not wearing pants. I mean, it became a thing. I mean, right now the sales of pants all over the world went down, and everybody was either in their underwear if everything was fine or completely naked. So who's going to be the winner?
I don't know who's completely naked because we never find out. I think in your house it must be more interesting than many.
And the winner for this category is going to be...
Wearing no pants.
Wearing pants. Absolutely. I think that was just the biggest thing in 2020, and it's something that we're all going to remember for a long, long time.
It was the year when the fashion industry went, oh dear, nobody's wearing a suit anymore, and jogging bottoms, cargo pants, or even just big boxer shorts and pajama bottoms became a thing, and they'd never go away again.
Crazy.
And cheers to you. And for goodness sake, if you're going to do video conferencing, don't forget to wear your pants.
Our next category is going to be one-hit wonders. What do we mean by one-hit wonders, Dave?
These are the things that happened once and made you go, oh my goodness, really? And you had to Google it to believe it was a thing. It wasn't orchestrated, it wasn't planned, but it was just, nowadays everybody's on camera and the cameras didn't miss a beat when it came to this. And they kind of made us feel better as they happened because it made you realize that we're all as mad as each other in this crazy COVID-driven world. And the first nominee for this is the fly that landed on Mike Pence's head during the debates for vice president. He's there delivering his content, making his point, and as he's making his point, a fly made a home on top of his head and stayed there for a 2-minute period, which, let's face it, was the most interesting thing in the entire debate. And the internet found out, the internet believed, and it became a viral sensation. And apparently it's got an agent now as well.
Our next nominee is going to be Dr. Anthony Fauci doing the first inaugural pitch on the 2020 season of the MLB. And this was just insane. I mean, he's been a Washington Nationals fan for a number of years. He goes all the way to the mound, does the entire beautiful movement of he's going to do a pitch, and then he does this. Have a look.
To throw out the ceremonial first pitch. Catching his pitch is Nationals pitcher Sean Doolittle. Dr. Fauci, when you're ready, it's your pitch.
I don't even need to tell you what's going on. You're looking at the image. The ball missed the mark.
Worse from behind.
Fauci fans on Twitter are saying the doctor didn't want anyone to catch anything. That's the joke.
Not the biggest sports star to break out in 2020 and possibly not 2021. But good job, he's good at his other job. Our next nominee, we've mentioned several times before, it's a Tiger King. This guy burst onto the scene, shocked the world, changed the law about having dangerous animals in your back garden, went to prison, and is currently looking at a long stretch of looking through the bars and looking at the sign that says, do not feed the animals to him. It's a Tiger King.
And our last nominee on this category is going to be Kimberly Guilfoyle. And this is just beyond comprehension. I mean, first of all, I had no clue who she was until this happened.
Ladies and gentlemen, leaders and fighters for freedom and liberty, the best is yet to come.
So the winner for the one-hit wonder, and that is the fly on Mike Pence's head. Congratulations. And you win your Golden Throne Award, and we'll try not to smack you with it, which is what you normally do to a fly. This one is probably long dead because it'll last about 3 days, but you entertained us during the 2 minutes you had on top of his head. And strangely enough, you're watching the Toilet Paper Diaries. These are the Golden Throne Awards, and the best is yet to come.
That is correct. And we go to our next category, which is going to be the most missed.
So with this category, it's really about the people who passed and the things that disappeared. And every single one of them is really important. It's difficult to choose one in particular, so we're going to go through them, and it doesn't really matter in which order. And to be honest with you, in this one, it doesn't really matter who won or who lost. We really missed them all. First on the list is Chadwick Boseman, the Black Panther. Now, Chadwick was an incredible actor. He died at 43 from cancer. He had it for 4 years. Now, if you think about the amount of Marvel movies he made and other movies, he was suffering in silence of only his close friends knowing about it during all those incredible stunts and incredible movies. He was visiting cancer patients, children who had cancer, and cheering them up without revealing to them that he was going to pass as well. So when he finally did pass and lost his fight against cancer, the whole world was shocked, because there was more, a lot more that was going to come from that incredibly gifted actor, and sadly, that's when it finished. So just like James Dean, Elvis Presley, Marilyn Monroe, or any of those stars where you say, if only they'd lived longer, we would have seen some incredible footage, talent, awards, events, movies. We lost Chadwick Boseman in 2020.
The next nominee on the most missed, it's going to be traveling, and this is something which is very dear to me. I've been doing traveling my entire life since I was a very little kid, and this year has been very different. I think this is the longest time in my life that I have not boarded a plane, and I've checked with many people around the world, and they always agree, yes, absolutely, travel is one of those things that we definitely miss.
If you're lucky, the nearest you got was the end of the road or to the shops, and hopefully not the hospital, but that was pretty much your travel in 2020. Next on the list of the most missed in 2020 is Sean Connery, the iconic, legendary actor who played James Bond 6 or 7 times, depending on whether you count some of his movies, but also went on to star in Highlander and a ton of other movies, even won an Oscar in The Untouchables. Sadly passed away this year. And he passed after being in retirement for quite some time, and so people can still look back at his legacy and say, one of the best actors of all time, and many will turn around and say, but he only ever played himself. But what a self to play. So Sean Connery, we salute you, and we missed you forever since 2020.
Yeah. The next thing that we have missed, and especially for me being partially a Latino, are hugs. I think that is the most, for me it's the most relevant thing on missing. I am fortunate enough to have my wife and my kids to hug, but I miss hugging Dave, and I miss hugging all my other friends around the world. So right now, if you're watching, I am sending you a loving and virtual hug.
That was a beautiful thing to say, and not at all creepy, especially if you're not wearing any pants, as you mentioned earlier. And last but not least of most missed is Kobe Bryant, the incredible basketball player, loved and adored by millions throughout the world, probably billions around the world, who sadly passed in a helicopter accident with his daughter, doing incredible work for people, always somebody who you could rely on, and admired by superstars, by fans, by sports people. And I don't think there's a single person who had a bad word for Kobe Bryant, but we lost him far too young and far too soon, amongst many others. And with this, we'd also like to mention all the people who passed for coronavirus in 2020. You are also nominated as part of this.
And the winner is?
I think the winner is Chadwick Boseman, purely because from a pure movie point of view, and from the legacy and the inspirations that I made to many of the people who are protesting Black Lives Matters, who are looking for a king of Wakanda in real life to step up and be noble and change the opinions of many. He was adored. The Black Panther movie won Oscars. and had so many people go and see it of all colors. He was just loved as a superhero and a real superhero in real life. So for me, Chadwick Boseman is probably the most missed character of 2020. Our next category for our Golden Throne Awards 2020 is social media influencer, and we've given it a new title. This is Love 'Em or Hate 'Em. And these are the people that were controversial, that you had a whole movement that would go and die for them, or at least make a big noise about how brilliant they were. But at the same time, on the other side, there are people who just couldn't stand them and thought it was ridiculous and just couldn't understand why anybody would make such a big fuss. And the nominees are, Ernesto?
We're going to start with BTS. BTS, as we were mentioning a little bit earlier on, it's one of those K-pop groups which suddenly are everywhere. I mean, it doesn't matter where you look at, they are everywhere. And I just look at them and I go like, what's the point? I honestly do not understand why these kids became so incredibly popular.
Our next nominee is actually Sarah Cooper. And we can talk about her ahead of the third nominee, and you might not know who she is, but what she did was she created an incredible series of viral videos where she was just voicing, lip-syncing Donald Trump, but as different characters in different situations who would be saying something similar just to pastiche it. Now here's the thing, many people thought it was brilliant and a great use of comedy. Many people thought it was really insulting and the terrible use of airtime. And some people didn't quite get it, so they thought it was a tribute to Donald Trump. So like her or not like her, she's out there, and congratulations to her for all her success in comedy, jumping up the food chain to become viral with all those videos. That's Sarah Cooper. So you can't talk about Sarah Cooper without talking about the big guy, the big orange guy in the big White House, Donald Trump. Now, when you talk about social media influencer and you talk about all the things he's done, I don't think there's been a single person on the planet, and I would say ever, in my lifetime, who's been on so many conversations, become such a big household name, and been so divisive about whether people love him, hate him, are indifferent, but they all know him. And here's the thing, so much of our world is gathered around how we think about him and also how other people think about him. So with Donald Trump, you can't ignore him, or not yet anyway. And for the last 4 years, whether you like or don't like all the things he's been doing, he's been a huge influencer. And so the final nominee is Donald Trump. And the winner is, Ernesto?
Donald Trump. I don't think that there's been anyone else that has created the impact and the waves, whether it is negative or positive, in the news through social media as the Twitter storms from Donald Trump. Right now, Twitter is regulating every single one of his tweets, but still, it is one of those things that you were, oh my goodness, what is he going to tweet next?
And you can't argue with the fact, even if you want to, that you may not like Donald Trump, but he got more votes as a Republican candidate than any other in history and still lost. So you got to put it to him, Donald Trump.
Our next category is going to be social movement of the year. There were many social movements. Some of them were a little bit under the radar. Some of them were incredibly big around the world. And this is what we think are the biggest social movements of 2020.
So our nominees for social movements of the year include the first one, Black Lives Matters. This is the spilling over of social unrest and social protest, more than unrest, all based on the premature death of George Floyd on camera, that became a viral video that horrified people all around the world and drove them to look at racial injustice alongside gender injustice and disabled injustice. And it came to a head that maybe the world is geared against certain people in society. That led to marches despite coronavirus, and it led to huge changes in the way that people see how they interact with people of color. And also, and I'll say this from my point of view, I'm sure it's true for many of you, hopefully a big change is going to come. So for me, that's mine, but there's loads more great ones in this category.
Next is going to be the Joe Biden basement campaign. Now, this is a bit of a controversial one because even for President Trump, he was saying, well, you know, every time that he does a rally, there's 15, 20 people, 30, 40 people. While in my rallies, there's 5,000, 6,000 people. What he didn't know was that Joe Biden was using dark social media. I happened to participate in a number of different events carried on through the campaign, and the coordination, the way that the whole campaign was run, it was just absolutely amazing. And it was so incredibly well done that they knew what were going to be the results of the election days before the election was going to take place. And everybody that was not involved, they were saying, well, you know, I mean, this is going to be a landslide win from Trump. Till today, I mean, they are still debating if this was a stolen election, this was a fake election, or there was a lot of fraud through the election. And from the point of view of somebody that has really seen and seen every single thing that has happened throughout this movement that was under the radar, I can tell you it was brilliant done and executed.
And in complete polar opposite to that, our social media movement of the year next nominee is the Stop the Steal campaign. These were created as a direct result of fighting the election results. Now, the election results were verified right across the board, whether it's the electoral vote, it's Supreme Court, it was the recounts, it was just the local courts in other states, doesn't matter. Over 50 lawsuits were brought to say that it was unjust, and only one got through on a slight technicality. But it hasn't stopped the fact that this huge Stop the Steal campaign has been gathering momentum and raising about $300 million for Donald Trump. That doesn't necessarily have to be used for trying to get the elections back. It can be used for his legal campaigns, or maybe even to help him split the American country into 2 states. Let's not go there, but Stop the Steal campaign from the point of view of a marketing campaign, if nothing else, has been nothing less than astonishing.
And our last nominee is going to be the Lincoln Project, which I think was the drop that made the water spill. That combined with the incredible execution of the Biden basement created the change for President-elect Joe Biden to actually win the election. And we can see the work that they have done. Dave, you have some interesting comments also there on the Lincoln Project.
Yeah, the Lincoln Project. Well, what happens is when you are so dead against what's happening to your own party, you decide to go against your own party. This is almost like being a turncoat. This is almost like being a traitor to your own people, unless you believe that what you are doing is going to make such a huge difference that if you don't do it, then you'll lose everything. And that's pretty much how it was driven by everybody who was behind the Lincoln Project. They are the brain trust of the marketing campaign of the Republicans. So the thing that made them so effective is they knew how Republican voters worked. And so they aimed squarely at getting Trump out of office. They were happy with Biden, or unhappy with Biden, but they preferred him as a candidate to allow the Republican Party to close, to heal, and come back later. And what's really strange about it is ultimately it worked. But the guys from the Lincoln Project have never crossed over. They've never said we're Democrats. They've always said they're Republican, and it's going to be interesting to see which Republican Party they will belong to in the post-Trump era.
And the winner
is Black Lives Matters. As a person of color, it was the first time in 50 years I've seen the world unite and turn around and say something has to be done. Equally balanced by the fact that many people don't think it exists as racism, institutional racism, or racism of any kind, or even worse, they don't want to do anything about it. So Black Lives Matter's made a big impact, but it's always about what happens next, and will the legislation and the laws change to make sure this never has to happen again in our lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. Black Lives Matter, I think, will create a much better future, I hope, for all this racial divide, which should not exist in any way, shape, or form.
Not in 2020. Well, 2020 will give a pass to, because I mean, I would be surprised if Hornets and Darth Vader suddenly arrive. So now we're getting towards the climax of our entire Golden Throne Awards, as we would see a reflection of it in the Oscars. We've got Best Picture, Best Male Actor, Best Female Actor. So not in any particular order. This is the Golden Throne Award for the event of the year. So what's the event of the year? This is the one thing that happened which made the whole world go, oh my goodness, I can't believe that was just happening, and they couldn't take their eyes off it. And we've deliberately taken out coronavirus in this case because it should dominate, but it wasn't just an event. It wasn't a one-off, let's watch it, let's see what's going to happen. It was the entire year. So what's the first nominee, Ernesto?
Our first nominee for Event of the Year is going to be the US elections, which basically covered so many cycles, and it got us into debates, and it got us into watching for almost a full week to see who was going to be declared the next president, and then for over 40 days what was happening with all the lawsuits and whatever. And finally, I think we are coming in terms of what has happened. So that's our first nominee.
Coming to terms, well, some of us are and some of us aren't, but let's not go there until the 20th of January, and then you can go there, as some would say. Next up is the Together at Home concert. This was a load of superstars like Elton John and Paul McCartney and loads of other artists who put on a concert from their living room. People like John Legend, who are they doing it acoustic, or they're doing it with different Zoom candidates all playing at the same time. But it was an amazing concert that just united everybody with the idea that if we're in lockdown and you can't go out to play and you can't see your favorite artists and you need something to let your hair down with, why don't the artists come to you? And it was an amazing experience that the world really enjoyed. And the beauty of it is it's still out there, so you can enjoy the individual artists still. And you can see actually who's good and who's fake by seeing how good they were when they play in their living room in their pants.
Our next nominee is a very similar event, which also got the entire world together, and that was the Disney Sing-Along Live, where people from all over the world got together to sing the Disney classics like Frozen.
Well, the thing about this, Ernesto, was it was actually the artists who were singing on the actual movies who were singing their scripts and their songs live. So you got to see who they were, not just the cartoon characters of it. And I think that was really different for many people. And it made it a really, really great experience for the entire family. And our final nomination is, I'll let you do this one.
It's going to be the release of Hamilton. And one of the things that a lot of people miss is the possibility of going through the theater and going to Broadway or going to just enjoy a play. And I think it was just amazing that they decided to release Hamilton so that everybody will be able to see it. And I think this has been one of the most seen plays in, where was it, Netflix or Amazon that was delivering it, and I saw it, and it was just an amazing experience. I tell you, it was a bit difficult to understand. I had to watch it twice, But now that I got to understand exactly the whole thing, it was just an amazing experience. And the
It's
winner
not
is...
just a. Well, I was going to say it's not just a play; it's a musical, and the whole thing's been an experience. And the thing I think that makes Hamilton so fascinating is when you compare it to the politics of how America started, with the US elections and the Trump-Biden stuff and the coronavirus and all the challenges. It just takes the whole story back hundreds of years, but almost every part of it felt super relevant in what we've experienced in 2020. So the winner is the US elections.
Yeah.
Because it seems like the 4 years leading towards the US elections. Now, being British, what we do in the UK is you go about 3 weeks leading up to the elections where the campaigning goes on, the speeches are made, and then after that you go, oh, you won, okay, didn't like it, but moving on.
Now, our next category is going to be the biggest villain of the year. And we have to absolutely have on this category coronavirus. Coronavirus completely changed the world. And there's absolutely no doubt that coronavirus is going to be our first nominee for the biggest villain of the year.
Absolutely. But you have to then look at our next nominees with people who were related to the coronavirus. And we've chosen for the next ones people who doubted it or said it didn't exist, while watching millions around the world get infected and of course millions around the world dying. Next nominee is Donald Trump. Now you may turn around and say, that's political, Dave, Ernesto, you shouldn't do that, you said you were neutral. But when you've got the evidence of Donald Trump turning around and saying that he knew how dangerous this disease was, and he played it down deliberately because he was hoping it would disappear, then you've got to turn around and say, that was not smart, it was very dangerous and led to a lot of people dying. And if you disagree with that, well, good luck to you on that. So Donald Trump is the next nominee.
Here, I would like to have two nominees on the first, on the same category, and they're going to be two Latin American presidents. One is Jair Messiah Bolsonaro from Brazil, which also completely on denial this virus didn't exist, and created a humongous mess, as Brazil is one of the most populated countries on earth. And together with him, I would also like to say Andrés Manuel López Obrador, which is the president of Mexico, which, by the way, he said to everybody that he had created this little religious stamp with his picture that people could carry with them, so that they will be protected from the coronavirus. And most people, not most people, but a lot of people in Mexico actually believe that this little religious stamp, just by carrying it with them, was going to be protecting them against the coronavirus. Obviously, a lot of people died because of just that thought.
And I thought, I was just saying, well, if that was the vaccine, how come nobody sent one to me?
Exactly.
You're my friend, you should have told me earlier.
Exactly.
Anyway, so who is the winner of the Golden Throne Award for the biggest villain in 2020? And we've already given you a big hint, and we have to say that without this, it would have been a very different world and a very different winner. The winner is coronavirus.
Absolutely.
It shaped the world, it sped everything up. The good thing is digitization came faster. We learned to love each other more, and we learned to be more independent. The bad thing is the economy, the deaths, the pandemic, the second pandemic of mental health, emotional challenges, and the fact that the whole world seems to be set back to the dark ages. And it'll take a couple of years before we see a real recovery or even hugs and trust coming back in again. So coronavirus, we salute the fact we hate you.
Our next category is going to be the biggest heroes of 2020, and we have many. We absolutely have many, and we have to definitely start with Dr. Anthony Fauci and all the first responders, all those healthcare workers that possibly you remember in March and April and May that at 7 o'clock they were clapping, and that they were keeping us safe. And I definitely believe that those are our first heroes on this category.
I agree with you. Our next nominees are Amazon. Now, Amazon are seen by many people as the killers of retail. They're seen by many people as this big monster that gets all the other categories and eats them up and kills shops. But the truth is that what they did with logistics and delivery was actually incredible. They allowed you to be able to go shopping and get the stuff that you needed to be able to access for your business, for your family, for your day-to-day life, without having to leave the home. It's a definite fact that without Amazon, and there are other platforms available, but Amazon's the one that comes to mind most. So we'll categorize them all in the same thing, just call it Amazon. They were there for everybody, and they still are. They also became the biggest winners of the year, purely because I think they made more profit than anybody else, because their business went through the roof, and people now are just so used to getting a credit card, surfing, and buying what they want just because they're bored, not even because they didn't need it.
Yeah, and our last nominee is going to be the food industry. And here we're talking about all the people that delivered the food whenever you order food, all the Uber Eats, everybody that was working on the supermarket, everybody that was working on the different points of the chain, so that you will be able to get your milk, so that you will be able to get your meat, so that they didn't have us, that there was no things for us to eat. And I think they played a super important role throughout this pandemic. And I think still through 2021, they're going to be very important.
Absolutely. And without them, I mean, you think about our show, the Toilet Paper Diaries, we were worried about not being able to get access to toilet paper. Well, you can't eat that unless you really love Nutella. Horrible joke. But the fact is that we were all worried that the supermarkets would be emptied and we'd end up with some kind of civil war, post-apocalyptic world where people would be fighting to just eat. And luckily, that's not been the case because the food has been available.
Yeah, on this category, we should have also included, but of course that happened too late on the year to get it to include. It was all the people that were involved on the vaccines. I mean, all the people from Moderna, all the people from Pfizer, all the people from AstraZeneca, which for a long time they were really working on making sure that the vaccine was there. So even though that we have not mentioned them for this category, I definitely believe that they have to be acknowledged at least.
Absolutely. And the winner of the Golden Throne Award for the biggest hero of 2020, we have to put it to, well, if there was a face and a name to give it, it would be Dr. Anthony Fauci, but it's the first responders. They have been, without doubt, the only reason that the human race is still here. Because the hospitals got full, they never stopped working, they never stopped looking after us, they never stopped collecting people. Even when they got sick and they died, they had to deal with incredible levels of stress, not just because of the fact they're working all the hours, in many cases without any equipment, so photos of them with bin bags around their faces, or just headscarves that they were using because they couldn't get access to enough equipment at first. And also the trauma of having to tell families that their loved one has gone, but having to be there holding the hand of another person who passes, in many cases turning around and saying that coronavirus is a hoax, this can't be happening. These people have been incredible and still will go on. And I would like to say that in 2021, when we do start filming TV shows and movies and all the rest of it, I would like to see a change from war movies and cop movies and people shooting each other to the real drama of saving people's lives. Because I think that if those people didn't have their head in that space and weren't at the top of their game, a larger amount of us wouldn't be around to be able to tell the tale. So they are the real heroes of 2020. So with that, these are the Golden Throne Awards. It's been a pleasure, Ernesto, sharing them with you. And I think there's a center of calm which is happening right now. See you soon. Bye-bye.
See you.